And welcome to the Barry Foster Show, now on YouTube, originating from the Ridge Floor Studios in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. If you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for our program, you can put them in the comments below. We'll try to answer them, and if you have some connections to get some of these people, we could use that as well. You can also send us a email at thebarryfostershow@gmail.com. Check the YouTube page here every day. We're going to be putting up new programming on a regular basis, and subscribe to our YouTube page, please, and subscribe and like, and join our pages at the Barry Foster Show on Facebook and Instagram. That would be very helpful. In the studios again, the handsome, exciting John Larsen. John, good to have you.
Thank you.
And yesterday we were talking a little bit about the midterms coming up, and I want to get to that in a second. But we last week talked about the county commission budget. It's right now set at $205 million, which is down $6 million because they got a bunch of their capital improvement projects done, so they don't have to spend any more money on that. But they've still got the they've still got the millage up over 7, almost 8 mills, and the admonition is, oh well, don't worry, they're going to bring it down. I'm hoping. I have a call into Lori Herner, the county administrator, asking her about that. And supposedly, I put out a memo to one of our county commissioners, the one who seems, I'll tell you, it's Don Elwell, who seems to be the singularly most interested in citizen input. I don't get that from a lot of the other commissioners. But I said one thing I was hoping is that there would be a countywide DOGE. That's the Department of Government Efficiency. And he said, well, he was working, the county is working with a statewide DOGE. And I've put in a call to Lori Herner asking her who is doing that, and can we expect a report on the countywide DOGE. And I'll tell you that I know she's a busy gal. Mm-hmm. I'm like voicemail 10,001. I get it. And I know you put in some calls trying to get some of the county department heads.
Departments, yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for the Tea Party.
Yes, right. And she did help me, and so on. So I will say that she did help me. She gave me a list. We talked back and forth, and she gave me. I met with her and talked through this whole thing. Gave me a list of approximately 9 department heads or supervisors, whatever their title is, superintendents, whatever it is, and so on. So. To have them come in and speak to the Tea Party, which we've never had before, by the way. Mm-hmm. Any of the department heads come in and speak, but come in and tell us, okay, what does your department actually do, and how much money are you planning on spending, and what are you planning on spending it on? Okay, that kind of thing. So we have a better understanding of, you're talking millions and billions of dollars here. Okay, where's it going to go? And the citizens, it's their money. It's the taxpayers' money. So they have a right to know where the money is going.
We went to the Don Elwell budget meeting, mm-hmm. and I asked a couple of questions. I had many more questions, but there was already complaints that he was going long. He said it was only till 8:30. I think he went to 8:36 or something, and mm-hmm. People were saying, we'd like to go home when we're young. And no one stops you from leaving one of those meetings.
No.
And Don had a bunch of department heads sprinkled through the audience. Used to, it's been very interesting to watch. I've gone out of the 26 or so that he's had, 27. I've been to probably at least 20 of them, mm-hmm. and I've watched the very first one. There was nobody there, no county officials there. The second one, the county administrator and some of his friends showed up, kind of out of self-defense. And there was a time when he had them all sitting at what I call a church table, 6-foot-long table, mm-hmm. to answer questions. This time he kind of sprinkled them through the audience. And let's see, Sheriff Blackman and some of his brain trust showed up, looking out for their best interests. So I would think if they come, and there's a couple, I'd like to talk to somebody at Road and Bridge. Mm-hmm. I would love to see that. I'd like to see who's ever in charge of the landfill. And mm-hmm. talk to them about solid waste and what's going to be happening to us there.
Right.
There's a couple, 3, but I would anticipate if they show up, Karen Clogston or Michelle Drake, one of the public information officers, mm-hmm. will show up along with them mm-hmm. to help with information, facts and figures and that kind of stuff.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is for us to hear from the department heads, or the ones that are requesting the money that the county commissioners are going to spend. Okay, they're requesting X amount here, X amount over there. Okay, great. This is taxpayer money. Let's not forget that it's taxpayer money, and so on. So what is it your department does? What do you do? What's your job? What's your main responsibility? And how much money you're requesting, and what are you requesting? What are the big ticket items? I'm not interested in, I'm going to buy 10,000 paper clips. No. But I mean, if you've got a thing that's going to cost $740,000, what is that? And what are the taxpayers going to get out of it?
Yeah, like the new recycling and solid waste pickup plan that's coming.
Whatever.
Or the new landfill that they're building.
Right.
I think, and used to, and I'll say this again, used to that they had public hearings for each of the department heads. There was a 3-member committee, which was a county commissioner, the county administrator, and the head of the Office of Budget and Management, who would sit down, and each department head would come and they'd say, Bill, we see that you're going to be asking for $1 million this year. And you go, there's some expenditures here I have some questions about. Sometimes they would do it for, as you say, explanation, so people would know. Sometimes they said, you might be spending too much money on this. We'd like to know why has the cost of asphalt gone up so much?
Right. Well, when I was at the budget meeting last week, and I knew you were there for the first half, mainly talked about the Sparta Road development thing.
Oh, my goodness.
I was there, and they continued with the Sparta Road thing up until 1 o'clock. Before they finally started, they took an hour break. Then when they came back, they finally started talking about the budget. And they had a few people come in, and the sheriff mainly, because they wanted no more than a 5% increase across the board. Well, the sheriff was at about 14% initially. But when he came into that meeting last week, he said, no, we've sharpened our pencils and we got it down, I think 9.6 is where he was at. And he said, we're continuing to look for even more if we can find it, and so on. So that was the big money number right there, the sheriff's department. And when you take a look at it, I understand why the sheriff is faced with what he's faced with. He's got by far the biggest manpower budget of all, 400 and some employees in the sheriff's department. And public safety, as far as we're concerned, is number one. But also he's faced with, as I mentioned last week, he's faced with a huge issue of trying to keep up with the Joneses in the neighboring, if you will, counties that are also looking for deputies and other people in their sheriff's department. So if they're in a position like Polk County that can offer, I'll say, a little bit more than Highlands County for sure, they attract people that after they go through their training in Highlands County, they're shuffling off to Buffalo because, let's face it, you're a human being. You have a family or whatever. You've got to do everything you can in your earning years to help your family and give things to your family that you believe are necessary. And so increase in wages is a prime thing for someone like a deputy.
Yes.
And so on, because it's a small community, rural community here, so our budget, our pay, if you will, is low, and you're competing against, Sarasota, you're competing against Port Charlie, you're competing against Polk County, and they're all paying more than Highlands County.
One of the benefits is that here, lost dogs, and citizen help, and some of that is much more prevalent than the bigger counties have bigger problems.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, you get paid more, but you're more at risk. So,
yes,
but you're well played to say yes. That and it's been that way ever since I came. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping, and if you're in another part listening on the internet and in another jurisdiction, I wonder, do you have that same kind of budget transparency, or do you just get a letter in the mail saying, oh, by the way, it's going to be $2,000 more for taxes this year?
Well, there's not on a countywide basis, although I'm sure he's involved in it, but the mayor of, George, pastor up there that is mayor
of Lake Wales.
Lake Wales, yes, and so on. So he would be a person, I think, that would have some intimate information about,
Jack Hilligoff.
Yeah, how are you comparing, to, like, let's say, Highlands County, those kind of things, and so on, because he did get reelected, which is good. He seems like a very good man, and but he holds a dual job, if you will. He's a pastor of a big church, Hilltop Baptist Church, I think it is, as well as the mayor, and so on. So he's got a lot of inside information, I'm sure.
And this is the last time before the midterms, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday, is that the midterms were coming up and these guys are going to be out there campaigning. But I will tell you this, it's been my experience that when they're up for election, especially if there's somebody legitimate running against them, or not even somebody that they may not even consider to be a strong candidate. We've seen they used to scoff at Trump running, and we saw what happened. And the mood of the country is much more into an American first and more efficient, cost-saving kind of government. This is the time you'll be able to get things passed, because before, when they have 4 years or another 2 years in front of them, and they've just been elected and nothing can happen, they're not nearly as responsive as they are when, oh, Mr. Larsen, good to see you. What was this you wanted again? Oh, well, let me get somebody on that right away. And they will, either it's out of their campaign staff or it's out of their if they're an incumbent, their elected staff, they'll begin to look into how those things can be taken care of. Or they might even prevail upon you and say, well, John, this is your passion. Can you get me a one sheet on that? Can you get me some information on that? They're much more receptive now. Now, here in Highlands County, there's 2 county commissioners up. Arlene Tuck, who at this point I'm pretty sure is going to run again, and Don Elwell, who is absolutely going to run again. So, you've got those 2 up there, up here. That's 2 out of 5. That's not a majority. But it certainly is enough on the dais to make some changes.
Right, and I think that's important. One thing, you and I talked about it, not on air here, if you will, but last week briefly when I was at the meeting, one of the things that really kind of surprised me, the Sparta Road development, that housing development that they wanted to put in, that created all kinds of back and forth well before I got to the meeting, then even afterwards, okay? It went on for hours, if you will, and so on, back and forth about whether they should approve it, which ultimately they did in a vote of 4-1. Okay, Arlene Tuck was the only one that voted against it. And when she was summarizing her vote, or talking before she cast her vote, she said, she called the people that's in her district, okay, the Smart Road is in her, she said, these are my people. And I'm responding to what they have come to me and said, we do not want this. Okay, and then the vote was held, and she was the only person that voted against it. The other 4 voted for it, all right? And then one of the other county commissioners, and I don't need to mention that person's name, but one of the other county commissioners kind of berated her for her vote. Why did you vote that way? Well, to me, I know they have sunshine laws and all that, but I just found it kind of shocking that you would call out another commissioner for their vote because you were unhappy with their vote.
Number one, she already told him why she voted that way.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Number one, she told him why she voted that way. And number 2, I will tell you that personally, I don't mind. Those people who were in the audience said, look, if you will stick with the original 28 houses, the one guy said, I'll be there I'll be the welcome wagon. I'll give them roses and whatever they need, He says, but to pack them and stack them in there, to shove them in there for extra money, we don't want that kind of a development by our house. We don't want that, all those people. And I will tell you that they call it, it's called not affordable housing, workforce housing, I think is the new term that they're using for it, to make it, they change the name to make it more palatable. But the thing is this, C.B. Shirey, who was the city manager of Avon Park I think he's the longest term tenured city manager, they were approving all these affordable housing projects and finally said, if you make it cheap to live here, only cheap people will live here. And I think in Highlands County, I know the county commission and the city councils for the most part, and the school board for sure, if it makes the cash register ring, they're all for it. And I think that at the least, they could have split it and said, look, we won't give you 40, we'll give you 35, okay, out of 28. Because they got it down below 4 units an acre to 3.7 units an acre. And that's a lot of houses. Almost 4 units. That's like a quarter acre lot. That's where you can spit on your house next door.
If I remember right, wasn't there a concern too that there was only going to be one way in and out of this location, which is not a good situation, because if something happens, let's say on a hurricane, all right, where something happens where that access or egress road is not available, what do people do?
That is marketed as a benefit, because there's only one way in, one way out. You're only going to that neighborhood. That will not be a pass-through neighborhood where you can drive on this street and that street and come out another way and cut some time off your. I mean, you don't just go cruising through the neighborhood. That's the way it's sold. Okay,
Right.
And I just think that there are many commissioners who are much more concerned about how much money they're going to get out of this, and they hang it on the fact, we don't have enough housing here. We need more housing here. People are coming, and because of low supply and high demand, the rentals here are $2,000 a month for a family of two. Just or $2,500 or more. People are pounding on the desk saying it's more than that, and it may well be. Okay, I understand that, but I don't. They can approve other housing developments that are much more beneficial, and that's what the comprehensive land use management plan originally was put into place for, was to plan the county out so you'd have housing here, you'd have business there, you'd have manufacturing someplace else, and they do that. And I think if you're going to come in and put that kind of a project in, you should be mandated to live there for 5 years. And because it's easy to put up a housing development someplace that don't live. I mean, you go back to your gated community in Orlando, and the people in Highlands County, that's just too bad for them. My cash register's ringing. I'm selling these houses for $200,000, $300,000. Putting a good chunk of that in my pocket. So I'm happy. And if you're crammed together, too bad you chose to live there.
I think the developer comes from New York, as a matter of fact.
It could be.
Yeah, they mentioned that a number of times when I was sitting there and listening to the tail end of that Sparta Road development. Was that was one of the things, and I think even Arlene Tuck may have mentioned it in her summary about the fact that the developer he's here, but he won't be here after the houses are all put up, and he's gone. He's gone back to New York State.
That's happened here, where they've had people come up out of South Florida to do development here out in the hinterlands where they got a bunch of hicks living, and they can put up these low-income housing projects, get the city council to agree to it because they're going to be making some money off it, and they go home smelling like Chanel No. 5, And that's another reason that we need to look at the midterms for the statewide, although here in Highlands County, I don't know about other places, here in Highlands County, we've been blessed. Kaylee Tuck as our local representative, and Aaron Grawl as our senator. Both are doing a pretty good job, I think. They're both doing a pretty good job. I don't have any argument with them. There are other places in the state that if you are looking at the way the state is going, because Ron DeSantis is going to be gone here.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And you're going to see who's going to replace him and what kind of House and Senate you're going to have there. This is going to be a constant effort to try to reclaim our republic, starting with Florida. Starting with the part we can do something about.
Well, there's two states that I think the Democrats have had their eyes on for a long time and really are salivating over it, and that's Texas and Florida. They want both of those. Now, both of those have been Republican. Texas, I think their House and Senate. Matter of fact, Trump has been after Texas to do some redistricting.
Yes.
And I guess they've agreed to go ahead and do that. How that's going to work out, whether it's going to do the smell test through the court system, which I'm sure the Democrats are going to take it through the court system, how that ends up, no one knows at this point. But, and Florida has a sizable so-called Republican legislature.
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
But if you read some of the fine print on what goes on in Tallahassee, there's some Republicans that I'm not sure they're Republicans.
Just because you have an R after your name
Right.
does not make it American. And it's something that people in certain districts need to look for. And if we have candidates, or we have reps that are doing a good job and are pretty safe, I don't see either of our two getting unseated. We may have to go and help other places to get America, whether it's unseating rhinos and getting America First conservative Republicans in, or unseating Democrats and getting America First, Republican conservatives in. It's going to be up to us to work in that direction. One thing that's working in our favor is the fact that illegals are leaving and they're self-deporting. And I heard this great take. Everybody knows about Alligator Alcatraz. Mm-hmm. It's only been open since the 1st of July, all right? And they're looking at, they got a 3,000 person capacity. They're looking to go to 5,000 capacity. It's a short-term stay.
Something I saw on Alligator Alcatraz this morning was there's been 34 911 calls made from Alcatraz, okay? 34. I'm sure they're saying it's too hot.
Oh,
There's mosquitoes.
There's bugs.
Whatever the issue is. So, yeah, they've gotten 34 911 calls from Alcatraz, all right, and so on. So it's kind of interesting. That's not going to go away right away, but I think as time goes on, as long as everything is run the way it's supposed to, they provided all the bad people with what they're supposed to get, and so on and so forth. And like DeSantis said when he toured it with Trump, we've got, I don't know, 1,000 or 1,100 foot runway. We can shuffle these people right out of here where they're going to go back to their country on an airplane. It's not a big deal. So,
and I heard this podcaster was talking about this, and I think he's right. He says, these kinds of things, Alligator Alcatraz is not made as some kind of long-term prison facility.
Nope.
That it is made as short-term, but it's a great deterrent. And if you're in this country illegally, and here are your options, okay? One is go to Alligator Alcatraz with mosquitoes the size of hummingbirds, and all. You've heard all the
right.
complaints they have.
Yes.
Or do I get a free plane ticket back to my home country with $1,000, which, by the way, is a princely sum? Mm-hmm. On some of these third world countries, I have a friend of mine who goes to a third world country, and he bought a wedding ring for about 25,000 of their currency. All right, I said, "What's that? Like $1.50?" He says, "Well, it's like $50." It's $50. He goes, I can live in an apartment in one of the nicer cities in the downtown area where I can walk. He says it's $200 a month, and he is ex-military, so he gets a pretty good pension. Mm-hmm. He says I could go down there and live like a king, if I chose to live a lavish lifestyle, but I can live a very comfortable lifestyle and still have plenty of money in the bank. So they could say, you know what, it might be better for me than just to bolt. To take this $1,000 and a free plane ticket out of here. And I think that they have already, since Trump comes in, they've had more than 1 million, maybe 2 million, have self-deported, which is about like 1%, but it's still a good step.
Well, I think the thing that happens almost immediately, and it's really just a visual part. You don't even need to put the strong arm of the law behind some of it, and that is these people can see the handwriting on the wall. The benefits are going away. Okay, all these freebies that the Biden administration provided you are going away, and they're going away quickly. Because if you see what Trump is saying, all right, he wants every benefit that these illegals have been given to be cut off. So all of that free stuff that you thought you were going to get and did get initially from Biden are not there. So now, do I want to stay here without the freebies and then have to do whatever with the possibility that I get rounded up at some point and sent back anyhow, or I take the plane ride back home?
Yeah.
And so on. So this is where, unfortunately, this is where those folks are at, and they have to make a decision one way or the other.
I knew a guy when I was living up in the great industrialized north. He was living in this apartment house in Cleveland that was going to get knocked down. And I came in, and everybody was gone. And all the stuff was still in his apartment. Mm-hmm. And I said, haven't they evicted you? He says, I keep getting letters. I said, well, when are you going to leave? He says, when they start knocking the building down. He's on, and so I'm sure that there's some illegals that are going to stay here as long as they think, because they got family here, they've got people who run interference for them, and we've seen this in the past, and they're going to try to outweight President Trump on this. Mm-hmm. And so will you get them all? Probably not all of them, but you'll be able to knock this, and the more you knock it down, the easier it's going to be to knock it down, I think. And in fact, Donald Trump continues to move at Trump speed. In fact, he just called on Senate Majority Leader John Thune to cancel their August recess so they can approve his fabulous nominees to get into office and begin enacting more of his policies. And I think that Trump's speed, he is really picking up speed. There was a lot of people thought, well, he had this first blush and it slowed back down. It really hasn't slowed down.
No, it's a matter of fact, this weekend he stirred the hornet's nest again when he said that Cleveland should return the name of their baseball team to the Indians.
Yes.
And the Redskins should become the Washington Redskins again instead of the Washington Commanders what is it, Crusaders? Is that what they call Cleveland Indians?
Yes, they're the Guardians.
Guardians.
The
okay,
Guardians.
Which makes no sense at all to me.
No, I know, and there's a bunch of us. I grew up in Cleveland, and I have been a long-term fan of returning the tribe,
right.
the Indians, and they tried to get the Florida State Seminoles to change their name, and the Seminoles said no.
Right.
No, we like the Seminoles.
Right.
They lionize us, And isn't it interesting that nobody's asked the Vikings change their name?
No. No, that's right. Especially in a state like Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, the Muslims aren't really big fans of the Vikings, I don't think.
I doubt it. I doubt it highly. But
and so I think I was watching this old clip of Ronald Reagan. He was just getting ready to go out of office, and he says, you can love France and move to France, but you'll never be a Frenchman. He says, you can love Germany, go to Germany, so you'll never be a German. He says, you can go to all these other countries, and you'll never be a Japanese, okay? But people can come from all the corners of the earth and come here and become an American. All right, you can become an American and be part of the great melting pot where you throw in your part of the culture, and if you have cornrows in, nobody complains. If that's what you want to do, you can be as flamboyant as you want. The ability to swing your arms ends at the tip of my nose, that kind of thing. And so you can become an American if you throw in to be an American. And so if you call yourself, I wanted them, if they change their name, to become the Cleveland Anglo-Saxons or become the Saxons, and have one of the Saxons with their big, war club and everything. I thought that'd be a great idea. I would not have the first part of the offense of that. But his bully pulpit and his ability like that, it would not surprise me to see them change their name.
Well,
back.
he made that announcement, I think, this weekend, if I saw it correctly, and I think the commissioner of the NFL was there and a few other so-called dignitaries. So, he's trying to strong-arm them, I guess, to, okay, look, you fell off the woke wagon when you changed the names here, okay? So why don't you just say, okay, look, yeah, we realize that was not a good move, so we're going to go back to the original name that people knew these teams by forever.
Yes.
Forever, okay? The Cleveland, I was a paper boy, and one of the things we used to do, and if you got, like, say, 10 new customers, they put you on a train and took you to Cleveland for a doubleheader.
Oh, really?
On a Sunday. We'd go up there and
how cool is that?
Which our doubleheaders are long gone, but we had
They don't have doubleheaders anymore?
No. But we used to go to Cleveland and see doubleheaders.
Yeah.
In the summertime. Absolutely. It was great. And, I was like, 14, 15 years old, whatever it was. It's fantastic.
What a great, go to Cleveland Municipal Stadium. Being a Cleveland Indian fan really showed you what a fan was, because every year they would be the hottest team in baseball until the All-Star break. And All-Star break, they would never lose. They would never win a game. And they would plummet to the very bottom of the right. And then right at the end, they would fight their way back to like being in fourth place, third or fourth place.
Right.
They'd fight their way back to mediocrity to get above 500. But my dad and I went to many Cleveland Indian stadiums, Lakeside, the Muni Stadium there.
Yep.
And we never, we were all happy about the Indians. We loved the Indians.
And when we went, you never thought anything about the name. That never entered your mind. That was the team. You go there. That's the team you're rooted for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
and so on. So, but it didn't matter what they were called.
The Boston Braves became the Milwaukee Braves, became the Atlanta Braves. Braves, but they're still the Braves.
Right.
You know, they carry their nickname with them, and so, well, I'm glad to see him trying to advocate for normalcy, getting back to what America is,
Right.
which America is the Heinz 57, you know, of all the ingredients mixed together to make. And I think that many people who come to America appreciate the freedoms that we have here more than the people who grow up here. There's this normalcy bias, and people think that, why, there's freedom of speech in every country, and there's not even in England.
No, not anymore. Not anymore. No. They have speech police.
Yes.
And you can get arrested for saying the wrong things, or even putting out some kind of a post that is against what the government wants you to do, so you can be arrested. So it's just unbelievable what's happening.
Well, they locked some woman in England up because of a Facebook post that she'd made that they thought was racist or bigoted or something. And you know, in America, freedom of speech is speech that you don't necessarily agree with.
Right.
You know, that people saying you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, you can't threaten to kill somebody, but you know, you can say that this candidate's an idiot or that candidate's an idiot or you're an idiot or whatever. But at any rate, you can do that because you have freedom of speech, the ability to express your opinion no matter how boneheaded it is.
Well, I see that also something that Trump has done. He's suing Rupert Murdoch for something that he owns, the Wall Street Journal. And they published something in the Wall Street Journal that was against what Trump either did, said, or whatever, and so on. So he's made a statement this weekend that he's going to sue them for millions and millions of dollars for defamation of character, and some kind of a letter that he supposedly wrote to Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, which he says absolutely positively that never happened. So and even when they went back to Wall Street Journal or Rupert Murdoch and said, okay, where's your proof? Well, we don't have the proof. Why would you make that kind of a statement if you didn't have proof?
See, that's the thing. When I was in journalism, you had to have 3 corroborative witnesses or sources that would tell you the same thing, that said, look, I went and I researched. You can't say, well, I heard this rumor. That this horrible thing had happened. Well, no, you can't do that.
Right.
You know, and certainly not in publication. And that's why people are moving away from, well, print media is all but dead. I think this is one of the last places it's going to go away because we have an older population who's used to sitting watching, reading the paper while they have their morning coffee, and that's going away now. People are much more watching it, reading their social media feeds and other feeds, and we've talked about podcasts. One thing I haven't talked about is I'm a proud member of Truth Social Media, and they've opened up this new thing called Truth Plus, and it's in what they call beta format. They're doing, but for the basic free subscription, you get 27 channels. It goes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can watch pretty much whatever you want to see. It's very much in the strain of right side broadcasting. When I was growing up as a kid, and probably when you were growing up as a kid, there were newspapers, and you knew where they stood politically. Like my grandparents were in Adrian, Michigan, and there was the Adrian Telegraph, which was the conservative paper, and then there was the Lenawee County News, which was the Democrat paper. I've told this story. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. So one day my grandpa gives me a nickel or a dime. He gave me some kind of money to go down and get him a paper. It's all he says is, "Give me a paper." So I went down, and apparently, I don't remember this, but apparently I got the Lenawee County News, because when I brought it back, the look on his face, he just dimmed way down. And he says, "Barry, we don't allow this paper in our house." He says, "Go get me an Adrian Telegraph." And he gave me another dime or whatever it was. So I went down and got it, and I never saw the paper again. It had disappeared.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think news organizations are kind of, they're sorting themselves out. If you want leftist news, you watch MSNBC or CNN. If you want right-handed news, you go to Right Side Broadcasting, you know, or One America News or Newsmax, and you can find stuff there, because there's less news and more commentary now.
Right.
You know, here's the story, and then you get 5 minutes of what the story is, and then 25 minutes of what does it mean.
Well, it's like, I read that short snippet there of the MSNBC version of what Tulsi Gabbard
Yes.
unearthed this past week or whatever. And it's the wording, and it's like you and I have talked many times. If you see an article under the AP banner, you better realize right then, before you read the content of the stuff, of the information, that it is a biased reporting,
Yes.
heavily biased reporting, and so on. It's very interesting and whatnot. But they've been able to get away with it all these years,
Yes.
and so on. But I think finally, you're right. Their kingdom is crumbling under the weight of their own, I want to call it this, ignorance. Okay, because they can't read the writing on the wall. You can come out and if all your content is just bashing someone, I don't care who it is, day after day after day, and that's all you talk about, pretty soon you've lost, like everybody says, you've lost 50% of the country immediately.
And it seems like, to me, that when we watch Right Side Broadcasting, when we watch One American News and some of these things, the stories are more uplifting. Like the story that we got where Coca-Cola is shifting from corn syrup to cane syrup.
Right.
That RFK Jr. has been doing a journeyman's job and changing the culture. We went to a grocery mart here that we go to, and my wife was looking for organic chicken broth. Mm-hmm. And it was very interesting that we went in there and there were two boxes that looked almost identical. One was a little more square, one was a little more rectangular. And on the back, one was 140 calories. The other one was 5 calories. Mm-hmm. I said, wait a minute, look at it. And the one was 140 calories. The list of ingredients was about 3 inches tall. Mm-hmm. The one was 5 calories. The list was about an inch tall. Mm-hmm. And our kind of a rule of thumb is the fewer ingredients and the easier they are to pronounce, that's where we go. Interestingly, the lower calorie, lower ingredient chicken broth came from Canada. And so we bought two, I think she bought beef or vegetable broth and chicken broth. Mm-hmm. They were both Canadian. But you have to be a label reader now. Right. And I think these are going to change. In fact, she gets these chips, and they put out an American mix where they had plain corn chips, and then they had the blue corn chips, and they had some that were dyed red, mm-hmm. and it was red number 40.
Right.
So I looked up red 40. It's petroleum based. Okay. Now these were supposed to be organic. I said, right. I would settle for something not quite as red. It could be more, scarlet. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to use beet juice instead, mm-hmm. because beet juice will stain anything. Mm-hmm. So I said, we would. I haven't heard back from them yet, but I think Americans are getting more health conscious because of Donald Trump's appointment of RFK Jr.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing of it is, he is it's like you want to talk to somebody who's trying to make you healthy. You don't want to have to be introduced to a 275-pound guy, okay, who looks like he never missed a meal in his life. RFK Jr., if you look at him when he takes off his shirt,
he's a buff
for
guy.
his age. He's got muscles. He's fit. He's trim, and I think he's practicing what he preaches. And so that's the kind of spokesperson you need to lead the country in that kind of a road, if you will, how to make the country healthy.
And on a national level, they just turned down the World Health Organization, WHO, because they were, and we were very concerned about the previous administration signing on because they would supersede American law and ability to shut a country down for something like the COVID pandemic. They were able to use health to shut the entire country down, and I was very concerned that they might sign a treaty that would allow them to supersede American law. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, Donald Trump's told them, no, we're not doing that.
Right. And so I think it's certainly, that was a good move in a lot of ways, and I think RFK seems to be doing a really good job, but he's fighting an uphill battle because you've got the food conglomerate, you've got the drug conglomerate, you've got the medical conglomerate. They're all pushing back on things that he wants to do.
Yes.
So he's got to plow his way through all these huge organizations and make it happen. But it appears like he is. He strong-armed them to start getting the dyes, the color dyes, the red dye and all that out of the food system, getting sugar out of the cereal system, if you will, because that's what unfortunately hooks young kids, really young kids, immediately. Yes. They eat these sugary cereals that also have the dyes in them, and like Fruit Loops and that are multicolored, and they're using, for years, they've used these dyes that are not good for your system, not good for your health.
Yeah, so it's an upward battle. We hope that you out there will continue with us on this battle. I really want to take a moment to thank Nell Roberts and Ridge Florist, giving us the Ridge Florist studios here where we can do our broadcasting. Strangely warmed coffee. Had a couple of big cups before I came in. Our friends Jerry and Steve Slaybaugh down there in Sebring, and of course Anderson Arms, the best bullets on the planet. It's ammunitionplanet.com. Oak Island is their brand name, but you can get 9mm, 45, 44 mag, the whole 9 yards. So that's going to do it for us today. John, thank you again.
There you go.
Man, this thing goes so fast.
It goes so fast.
You've been listening to the latest edition of the Barry Foster Show, recorded at the Ridge Floor Studios in the city of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. Thoughts, ideas, or suggestions, just put them in the comments below. We'll respond to them. And if you have people you'd like us to interview, subject you'd like us to broach, we can do that for you. And please subscribe here to the YouTube page and join our pages at the Barry Foster Show on Facebook and Instagram as we continue to search for truth, justice, and the American way. John Larsen and Barry Foster, and we'll see you next time.